Okay, Nick, thanks for that first part there, a little bit of the background. A lot of people would probably know you for Channel 4 Racing originally, where you became a household name as far as racing people go. Can you tell us a little bit about that time? Any special sort of memories or observations of it?
Yeah, it was almost all a good time. And I think because there was a change in the production company sort of 2/3 of the way through the time that I was working there, and because my role became bigger or more significant with the second production company, it's almost easy for me to forget and for people to forget that I was there for 8 years before that. So I started in 2004. The first show I did for Channel 4 was at Redcar with Graham Good, which was a light end and lovely man, really looked after me. Gigi and Stephen Byrne, who then ended up moving to America and working over there, was the producer that day. He was only at Channel 4 for about another year after that. But no, I was used then sort of sporadically by Andrew Franklin, who was the boss of High Flyer, and then a bit more regularly, and sort of became part of the team under him and John Fairley, really. So they were happy days and happy times, but there were difficult times towards the end, because obviously I think everybody knew that change was in the offing, and I think for several years, even before there was a change in contract and before the plate shifted, if you like, I think there was a sense that the network wanted something different, or if the network didn't want something different, then horse racing wanted something different. So the balls were all going to get thrown in the air.
So fast forward to Luck on Sunday, which I think it's fair to say has been a big hit in the racing world. What was the brainchild behind it? Did you suddenly have a eureka moment, or was it put upon you?
I think it's something that Racing UK had always been keen to try out, to do a Sunday morning magazine of some description, but it had been on the back burner an awfully long time, and I don't think anyone really thought that it was going to happen. And then when my commitments changed and I became freer because of the end of the Channel 4 deal, Richard Fitzgerald was keen to sort of breathe some new life into this project. So we talked about it a bit, and we didn't really get anywhere, and talked about it a bit more. And I went to Hong Kong at the invitation of Pat Cummings in April 2017, and they were talking about showing the Hong Kong racing on a Sunday morning. So I sort of thought, well, maybe we could tie the two things in together and do something. So I spoke to a few of the people there, and then I came back and spoke to a few of the people at the Racing UK, and Bill Esdale was incredibly helpful, putting the two parties together. And then there was a pause, as there often is with these things, and no one said anything, no one said anything, no one said anything, and then it was suddenly, right, yes, we can do it, we'll do it this week. So it was a bit of a rush to get it up and running, sort of just over a year ago, but it worked out really well. I'll be eternally grateful to Hong Kong for their support of that first series. And sadly, they're no longer with us, but it was great to sort of build it around that to begin with, and it gave us that structure to move forward with. So it's been really good fun, and one of the most enjoyable parts of say doing the morning line for all those years at Channel 4, particularly latterly, was the ability to get like racing professionals and get a tune out of them, and try and tease something in a live environment that you might not get out of them otherwise, and to be able to sort of extend that in a kind of longer format has been a lot of fun and a real pleasure.
So what's happened with the Hong Kong connection then?
Well, Hong Kong signed a deal with the new Sky Racing, or At the Races, to do the racing exclusively on that side. So obviously that's meant that Luck on Sunday can't have the Hong Kong racing within it, which is, it's a shame, but I could see that was the way things were shifting, and I think that ATR or Sky are sort of going out to try and show as much international racing as they can. And obviously Racing UK, under its new name and new guys next year, is going to be loaded with all the best British and Irish racing. So it wasn't that much of a surprise to me that Hong Kong went that way. And as I say, I'm just very grateful that they stepped in to support our first series. And luckily we've got a great sponsor now in Mali Al Basti, who's sponsoring racing all around the world. He sponsors a lot of TV in all countries as well, Dubai and America and here. So yeah, I've known Mali for probably 20 years, and it's great to have his support.
Right, so it's 2.5 hours of live
Yes.
TV.
Well, 2.5 hours if we stick to time.
Right.
I must be the only person who's got that luxury, of which I probably shouldn't be afforded, of the fact that if we're bleeding over, then we suddenly get an extra quarter of an hour, which is a pain if you've recorded it on your EPG because it stops at 11:30. But but 2.5 hours.
So you've seen me here with my little bits of A4 I keep glancing down at. You've got 2.5 hours of interviews.
I wish I had some A4 to look down at now.
Now, do you have a team to sort of help you research it? Do you get rehearsals?
Oh, that sounds very grand.
You don't then?
Not really, no. We've got a small and very dedicated team. It's not like doing network TV. You know, the guys at ITV and us at Channel 4 before, yeah, there is a good support network. Same when I work for NBC in America. It's, you know, you're obviously going to have a much bigger team because you've got a bigger budget and what have you. But the show does punch above its weight. It's got its own dedicated producer, Bruce Clements, who's really dedicated to it in every sense. And he's a brilliant guest booker. And we chat from Tuesday onwards. You know, I leave him alone on a Monday. Apart from yesterday when he rings me up and tells me that our main guest has dropped out this week. But I try and leave him alone for a couple of days, and then Tuesday onwards we just kind of talk about it and gently work our way towards the show. And of course you can't do too much because you want to be able to react to what's happened the previous day as well. And this week we've got, I know this is going to go out probably after Champions Day, but this week, as you're conducting this interview, we've got Champions Day at the end of this week, so obviously that's going to form the basis of this weekend's programme. So you can't do too much planning. And as for notes, well, I don't know. I think it's a temperament thing, really. I just think some people enjoy working without and some people prefer working with. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing it. I've never been a very noteful person, which probably means I'm lazy, but...
Which makes it even more amazing. You have appear to have an extremely extensive knowledge of a wide aspect of horse racing. So from breeding to betting to form. I mean, do you have to work on becoming that knowledgeable? Do you just retain knowledge because you're interested? Well,
it's kind of you to say. I suppose I think if you are interested in something, your memory will help you out. And I'm lucky. I have quite a naturally retentive memory. And since I was 23 or 4, whenever I started, anyone who's a little bit older than me in this job keeps saying to me, "Your memory will go. You know, your memory will go. You will start struggling with that." Now I've got to 40. And it's okay, so I'm hopeful, you know.
Yeah,
you're doing all right.
I'm nodding away there.
You're doing all right.
So are you?
You've got a few years on me.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Are you in control of the content and the guests, or are they sort of chosen for you as a bit of each?
But both, really. I don't think we do. I mean, I wouldn't go and book a guest and then. It has to be a collaborative process.
Yeah. And is there a time delay in case of an outburst? No. Have you not had an outburst?
No, no. Mick Easterby has been on the telephone. So it was a shame, really, because I got him on to promote his point to point, and the producer hadn't even got back down to the gallery, and the F-bomb had been dropped. So it's annoying, really, because I'd quite like to have him on as a guest, but I think he might have stymied that now, which may have been by design.
So who's been your most memorable favourite stroke interviewee so far?
That's a good question. The ones that stick out from the first series, Cricket Head, just because I think it was just fantastic to get her in the week that she retired, and she came over on the Eurostar specially to do the show, and she was just brilliant and warm and humorous and knowledgeable, and I just thoroughly enjoyed her company. And there was a lovely section between her and Olivier Deleuze, who was riding in Hong Kong, and Graham Cunningham had Olivier Deleuze in Hong Kong, and we had Cricket in the studio, and he'd been a great protege of hers, and he produced this sort of bunch of flowers from behind his back in Hong Kong, and several thousand miles away there was she with a sort of tear in her eye. It was a really sweet moment, and I thought she spoke brilliantly about what it is to train racehorses, what it is to promote the sport, how you need to be more open with the press and the public, which is not an attitude that's been perpetuated, particularly in France, all that much. She's an absolute pioneer for for women in racing, a pioneer for taking racing to the public, a pioneer for being open with the press. And I just thought all of that was embodied in the one interview, and she's delightful and charming. So loved that. I thought Harvey Smith was great character. I think people confuse him with being just a sort of gruff, stereotypical Yorkshireman, and he's so much more than that. There's real depth and richness to his character, and he is an absolute legend, and he was one of the most famous people in the country in the 70s and 80s.
And that was a really special interview, wasn't it? I'm watching that myself.
And I owe Vanessa Ryle, who works at the races, an assist. Her bosses will probably be livid with her, because it was Vanessa who sent me a message saying, ask him about training the lion cub. So I owe her one.
And that's one of the most memorable pieces, isn't it, for anybody?
So, everyone thinks that people in the racing media are sort of very polar, and whoever you work for, no one kind of cooperates, but it's not the case.
Has there been anybody that's been frustratingly elusive, reclusive, and you want them but they're just not having it?
He won't mind me saying it, but I mean, John Gosden was our penultimate guest on the first series, and it did take me a little while to wear him down. See, John is obviously, he's very forthcoming on the race course, and he is very, he's got a reputation for being very good with the media and giving lots of interviews, but I'm not sure how much he fancied the idea of coming down to Ealing on a Sunday morning and sitting and having me try and bowl a few googlies at him. But his wife Rachel had been the guest on the third show, so we were at a function in London, and we were coming down in the lift after it had finished. And Rachel said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm struggling." I said, "I've asked John 12 times to come on the show, and he won't." She said, "Leave it to me." So we formed a pincer movement and gave him no choice. But he was, when he did come on, he was predictably absolutely brilliant. And the stories he told about his time in America, I think, were exactly what everyone wanted.